day, everyone. Today's podcast is going to give you a description of the third category when determining your horse's personality preferences using the equusology method. As a recap, earlier podcasts have given you an overview of the horse's social preferences, how to determine this social preference, and why it's important to know the social preference, as well as an overview of ways your horse takes in information, how to determine which way is their preference of taking in information, and why it's important to know your horse's learning preference. This podcast will give you an overview of how your horse makes the decision to take an action. This is also a 20-point category, and decisions are made by either thinking or feeling. Many people have sold their horses because they felt they didn't get along with them. They felt that their horse didn't want them as an owner because they didn't show much affection or emotion back, or would move away when they wanted to be super close to them or hug them. If a horse's preference is the thinking category, they don't display a lot of need for affection. This doesn't mean they don't enjoy sharing their life with you. They just don't express this by means of lots of touchy needs. When at liberty and you want to stand or rub on them, many times they will quietly walk away as if they're saying, "Don't really need this now." If a horse's preference is feeling, they do typically hang around when you want to rub them, hug on them, or groom them, and this is even more so true when they're at liberty. They like and enjoy it. All of that touchy-feely times that you're together. It's so different than the thinking preference. So why is this important looking at the big picture? I feel it's important because you will better understand why your horse chooses the responses and actions that he does under many different situations, and with this knowledge, you won't be as apt to take it personally. So I'm going to describe a couple of ways you might make observations or take time to reflect to help you determine your horse's preference in this third category of how they choose to make a decision, thinking or feeling. Think back to a situation where the horse was anxious. You could have been at a horse show, at home with your horse when it was upset about something or unsure of something you had exposed him to, or maybe a trail ride where you wanted your horse to do something, but he was having no part of it at that time. If you gently rubbed your horse's neck or spoke to your horse in a calming voice, did your horse respond positively and put his attention on you? Did you see signs of relaxation, or did he give you that small try? Or did your horse respond as if you never spoke to him, you never gently rubbed his neck or continued to be anxious or distracted, and he acted as if you weren't around? If you receive a positive response and your horse put his attention back on you, his innate preference is more towards feeling. This preference relies upon the human for guidance and praise. This horse uses his heart to help him make a decision. If your horse acted as though you weren't there at all, his innate preference is more towards thinking. This preference needs to think about each situation and decide for himself if this situation is safe or if he can relax or maybe go forward, if that's what you were asking of him. All the encouragement and praise you could possibly give to your horse will not be enough until he's satisfied that he has looked at that situation and thought about the situation sufficient for himself if he's a thinker. A person that chooses the horse to be their best friend and confidant can easily misinterpret their horse's decisions and take it very personally if their horse has a high score towards thinking because the owner desires the visible connection between the two of them that feels special, whereby that horse would do anything in the world they would ask them to do. A person that doesn't have a high need for an affectionate horse can easily misinterpret a high preference feeling horse and see him as pushy or in my face all the time kind of horse, or a horse that feels too clingy, because the owner doesn't understand that this particular horse relies upon his owner for confidence, and he needs the calming voice for reassurance or the strokes on his neck to support the horse in stressful situations. In my opinion, this category is one of the most misunderstood when the owner's preference and the horse's preference are different. It can easily appear that the horse and the owner are incompatible, and then that creates the most probable situation for the horse to be with a new owner very soon. I have a mare named Monty. She's a spotted saddle horse mare, and she's a very high T thinking horse. Now add to that, she's very energetic and high strung. She can become very nervous at the smallest of changes. She entered as part of my family when she had just turned 3 years old. She'll soon be 21 this year in May. I cared a lot for this mare from the very beginning, but she seemed very aloof with me and did not need anything from me except to bring her food at her feeding time. When she first arrived, every time I entered her stall, she would back away from me a couple steps or move away from her hay rack if I rubbed her. I first felt these behaviors were being exhibited because she didn't trust me or had experienced some interactions with humans that wasn't pleasant. Later, I realized it was her innate preference that I was witnessing. When I would be trail riding her, she had to make her own mind up that a situation was safe. She did not rely upon me for support in any manner at all. I would sit quietly and wait it out. Then she would go forward over the bridge or beside that horse-eating rock or through a creek or under a tunnel or whatever else I asked. Initially, I used my voice, would rub her on the neck in what I considered a soothing technique to help her, but I quickly realized that she wasn't paying any attention to me. It appeared like I was almost a distraction that she preferred to not have at that particular time. So I learned to sit and wait for her to figure it out, mostly on her own by her processing through her sight, hearing, and other senses, and she had to decide for herself that nothing was dangerous. This was a really big change for me. My last trail mount that I had for over 15 years had been an Arabian stallion that relied upon me for guidance all the time. Often my voice alone could relax him, enough to go past obstacles or not stress when other horses came barreling past him on the trail. I had to adjust to Monty's way of deciding, and this was a really big adjustment. For probably 5 years, I continued to speak to her, rub her, all these things I'd always done for my Arab stallion to try to support her. And it took me a long time to become comfortable with her own preference, for her to decide to take action through her processing. Regardless of the discipline that you and your horse enjoy, it's very important that you recognize and support where your horse needs to help him make the correct decision in the most natural way for him. This lessens all anxieties. Oftentimes, this is not your go-to preference, so there will be adjustments needed by you. But those minor adjustments are so worth it to create a stronger communication path between the two of you. Not to mention how much more comfortable the two of you can be together if you realize why your horse reacts or responds as he does at times. It can have nothing to do with being poorly trained or inexperienced. It could just be his preference on how he processes his decisions. And then you realize he's not about to explode or bolt or shy. He just needs time to think about the situation before going forward. Or he needs a little rubbing on the neck or a few calm words spoken to him to have the confidence he needs before going forward. Please remember our horses are individuals just like us. Watch for my podcast on the fourth and final category, which is determining how your horse views his world. Hope you have a great day with your horse and keep listening for your horse's whispers. Communication, mutual respect, and patience will create the trust between the two of you that you both desire.
Catherine here from Horse World Connect. I hope you enjoy listening to our equine experts and interviews from horse-related business owners. Be sure to click on the next one to learn from or about a business you might not have heard of yet. On that same note, be sure to check out horseworldconnect.com to subscribe for giveaway updates from businesses in our online directory and to learn about valuable products and services for you and your horse. We look forward to connecting with you on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, or back here for new weekly podcasts. Horse World Connect, directory, podcast, community.